Hey guys, welcome to part number 4 of the Super Castlevania 4 playthrough. In this part, we climb up this very large tower. I don't know its relation to the castle. Maybe it's like a guard tower, because it's nowhere near the castle, but who knows, and it's not worth questioning it. The tower section this is actually one of my favorite stages. It's not too difficult, but it's not too easy. It's the right difficulty. And that's what I kind of feel like this game is. I feel like it's the right difficulty. The first 3 Castlevanias on the NES, there's a lot of parts where when you die, it's a cheap death. There's a lot of bottomless pits, and sometimes it's just an unfair challenge. In this game, for the most part, it's a fair challenge. You know, there's nothing too unfair about it. There's no enemies right next to bottomless pits. Well, there are, but it's easier to deal with them, mostly because of the 8-way directional whipping. I really feel like that helps a lot, and that's one of the reasons this is one of my favorite Castlevanias. It really helps, and if we had the 8-way whipping with the NES games, it might be they might be much easier games. You know, if you think about it, just next time you're playing one of the NES Castlevanias, think about how many times there's an enemy above you that you need to hit, but you can't hit because you're restricted to whipping in 2 directions. I really feel like it makes the game better. You know, I don't mind the 2-way whipping, but I really prefer the 8-way whipping. Anyway, I should probably be talking about the stage. As far as enemies in this stage, oh no, we're at a boss, so we'll talk about that later. There's 2 bosses in this stage, one in the first section and one in the last. This first is a skeleton with a very long tongue, and my strategy is just to continuously whip it, and you should kill it before it kills you. Not much strategy there. This is an interesting section. You have to latch on to that grapple point with your whip while the room rotates around. I quite enjoyed this part as a kid, and I was always mesmerized by it. It was reliving childhood memories. That's what this channel is, isn't it? And frustrating myself. But we're talking about other things. Here is, I believe, the first appearance of the Medusa heads, and the Medusa heads, I don't hate them that much in this game, primarily because they're much bigger than they were in the classic trilogy of games. Because in those games, they were tiny. They were very, very tiny, and they were hard to hit. And I'm sure anybody here who has childhood memories of the very first Castlevania can remember the room right before the Grim Reaper. You know, the Medusa heads were your worst enemy right there. And I got frustrated as a kid doing that part, I must say. That's a tough part. Anyway, if you latch onto that grapple point long enough, you should get to this exit, and you're now treated to an even weirder room. This is where this room, the background rotates, and you kind of get this disorienting feel, and the floor behind you will fall, but I don't really feel like it can catch up to you, because I think if you stop, then the tiles stop falling as well. So don't worry about that. Just break the candles, because there's some goodies in here. There was a pork chop earlier. I think there may be a cross. No, I don't think I get my cross back until stage 5, if I remember correctly. I really like that part too. That was a great part. In this section, there is blocks that continuously go up, and you have to get across them before they crush you or bring you into a spike pit. Always, or some of them, they'll lead you into a trap, so you gotta be careful. You gotta look at what you're walking into. But if you're careful and look at your surroundings, you should not die to this part. Maybe once or twice, but once you get the hang of it, you shouldn't die much. Here we have I think this is the first time we see the Spike Crushers. If they hit you, it is an instant death. But you can climb on top of them. Not too useful right here, but later sections of the game, it's quite useful to hop on top of them. As I was talking about before, the 8-way directional whipping, it really helps on the stairs, because in the original Castlevanias, when you were on stairs, you couldn't maneuver very well, and unless an enemy was right in front of you, you couldn't hit it. In this game, you can hit it pretty much whatever direction it's in, which is really useful. Alright, here is the second boss. Oh, there's 4 sections in this block. I did not know that. Anyway, this boss, he will throw blocks at you, and then he'll drop blocks from the ceiling. My strategy for you is to stay to the left and keep your eye on the ceiling. I recommend an axe or a cross for your sub-weapon choice. Axe is great because you can hit him up in the air when he's jumping, and the cross is always good. But just stay to the left, don't worry so much about whipping him, only when he comes towards you. And just pay attention to the ceiling, because that's going to be the thing that hurts you most. But with a keen eye, you should kill the boss no problem. And then he'll get really big and then go bye-bye. I don't know. Anyway guys, that's the end of this video. I'll see you all in part number 5.